Hello everyone. In this video, we are looking at Nike's last 5 years of performance based on financial statements from 2020 to 2024. If you're a visual person like me and you do not like looking just at numbers, then this video is for you. This is just an overview of Nike's past financial performance. You'll need to analyze further on certain points which will be stated but not covered in this video. Nike had an all-time high of about $177 per share in November 2021. I started looking at Nike when it was close to $75 per share around March this year, the same price it was selling for during the COVID crash. I got interested in the stock and started to dive deeper into the financial statements. If you look at the revenue chart, Nike's income has been growing. However, growth rate has been fluctuating in the last 5 years between 0.3 and 19%. The 19% in 2021 could be the rebound growth from COVID decline in 2020. I'm not sure what could be a sustainable revenue growth for an established company like Nike based on past performances. Make sure to comment on what you think is an ideal growth rate for Nike in the next 5 years. I would take a more conservative estimate of 3 to 6%, but it's just my opinion. Looking at the number of stores, I want to say they are focusing on sales in US since the number of stores in US is increasing in the last 3 years. But it is too vague to say it just with this data. The number of stores in other countries has been consistently decreasing until 2023, and I think it is starting to stabilize from 2024. We'll need to put a timestamp here and check again when we analyze the number of stores in 2025. Nike's important revenue segments are footwear, apparel, Converse, and equipment. The global brands division and the corporate segments are more for internal use within Nike, and they are quite small. Almost 96% of Nike's sales is from footwear and apparel if you include Converse, which I think is also mostly footwear and apparels. In the last 2 years, footwear's share of the business had an increase of 2 to 3%. However, equipment segment of the business has been increasing at a faster rate than other segments. Converse had a small revenue growth with a big jump in 2020 and a decline in 2024. Nike has two sales channels, wholesale customers, and the other one is called Nike Direct. I believe it's the sales from its direct stores and Nike owned platforms. Correct me if I'm wrong about this. Sales with wholesale customers has been fluctuating over the last 5 years, and I think it has stabilized in the last 2 years. Revenue from the direct channels has been growing steady between 5 and 30%. However, there is not much growth between 2023 and 2024 in both the channels. Nike classifies their revenue by market as four regions: North America, Greater China, Europe, Middle East and Africa, and Asia Pacific and Latin America. In North America, they had two great years for revenue growth in 2021 and 2023 with about 17 to 18%. I'm not sure why 2022 was much lower and it has flatlined in 2024. China probably saw a nice growth of 24% coming out of COVID. However, revenue growth has decreased in the following years. You'll need more research on whether the revenue will be flat in North America. It could be, considering Nike is already well established in US and Canada, so more than revenue, they might be focusing on increasing profit margin. And in Greater China region, if the company is back on growth trajectory from 2024. I'm not so sure why Europe, Middle East, Africa, and Asia Pacific and Latin America were grouped together instead of five separate regions. Here I see a common pattern of revenue increasing every year except for 2020. However, the growth rate for revenue is declining, which I think is okay since bigger and more established the company becomes in a region, sustaining a growth rate of 15 to 20% is quite difficult. We'll need to look on how the individual regions performed, starting with North America. North America chart for revenue from both sales channels shows a similar pattern to overall Nike's sales channel revenue chart. Nike Direct has been steadily increasing, although there is only a slight uptick in 2024. It is important to note that we need to understand why this trend is relatively flat in 2024 rather than jumping into conclusions based solely on these charts. As for wholesale customers, it seems Nike is maintaining a consistent revenue levels with only marginal increases. Operating profit margin is steady at 27 to 29%. In the Greater China region, the wholesale customer chart is almost similar to the North American one. However, direct has been declining since 2021 and further research is needed on that. Operating margin is at a healthy 30 to 31%, although we'll need to research why margin dropped from 39 to 31% in 2022 and whether it can go back up to 37 to 39% in the coming years. The next two regions have almost similar patterns to the North American one in almost all the four charts. Hence, we'll go at a faster pace. Wholesale is steady. Direct has been increasing at a faster rate with only a small growth in 2024. The operating profit margin is lesser than all the other regions at 24 to 26%. I think it may be due to the competition from its European counterparts since it is competing with some of the big names in footwear and clothing in both sports and casual wear. Similarly, with Asia Pacific and Latin America, wholesale is steady with a 5% increase in 2024. Direct was increasing at a faster rate than wholesale with a small uptick in 2024. It also has the next best profit margin after Greater China region at 28 to 31%. After looking at all the regions, I have the following points which needs further research. Revenue growth in 2024 is not much. Is the company restructuring its business plan or are they focusing on other ventures? Now let's shift back to financial statements, starting with gross profit. The first thing I notice is a stable gross margin of 43 to 45%. However, this is lower than the industry average gross profit margin for apparels, which stands at 51.93%. While gross profit is increasing, its growth rate appears to be slowing down. Could a 3 to 4% growth rate be the future benchmark for gross profit? This is something we'll require further research to confirm. Net income has been fluctuating at a similar level over the past 5 years. However, the net profit margin remains strong at 10 to 13%, which is significantly higher than the industry average for apparels, currently at 3.15%. That said, we need to investigate the drop in margin between 2022 and 2023. We'll need to add a timestamp here to check if the net profit margin will be back to 2022 levels in the next year. Due to these fluctuations in net income, the yearly growth rate has been inconsistent. Further research is needed on whether these fluctuations are one-time occurrences or part of a larger trend. It is important to monitor free cash flow as it shows how much money a company has available in its financial cycle to spend on other initiatives. Personally, I prefer companies with free cash flow that is slightly higher than net income. For Nike, there are certain years where free cash flow was higher or similar to net income, but we saw significant drops in 2022 and 2020. The margins are almost aligned with net income margin given that free cash flow amount closely tracks net income. However, yearly growth rate of free cash flow, which is a crucial metric for stock valuation methods like discounted cash flow, has been inconsistent. This inconsistency is something we need to analyze further. Cash from operations is back up, which is a positive sign for the business. The cash raised from investing activities is most likely being used to fund acquisitions such as Select in 2019, RTFKT Studios, and Datalog in 2021. When we see financing activities in the negative, it means the company is using cash to pay back debt, repurchase stock, or pay dividends. From the total debt chart, we can observe that some of these cash is being used to reduce debt. Currently, Nike is paying an annual dividend of 2.08%, which amounts to approximately $2.2 billion in 2024. Nike has also been engaging in stock repurchases, buying back approximately 4.35% of its shares over the past 5 years. While this is not a significant amount, the company might want to consider increasing its buyback, especially since the stock price is currently near its 5-year low. To conclude, here are my final thoughts on Nike. Please note that this sheet reflects on only range of past performances and does not predict future outcomes. These ranges do not account for any future business plans or strategies where the company might anticipate higher or lower growth compared to its past performances. So why are we using these ranges? Because a well-established company like Nike will generally aim to perform at a similar or better level than in the past. By using these ranges, one can get an idea of the potential value of the stock. There are lots of stock models to determine the value of a stock. For this video, we are only using Graham's and discounted cash flow model. The EPS growth rate in the last 5 years for Nike is at 18.74%, but I've taken a slightly reduced estimate of 10, 12.5, and 15%. Based on these estimates, the potential value of the stock is shown. If you think the value could be higher or lower, please use your estimate to recalculate the value of the stock. Similarly, in discounted free cash flow calculation, a growth rate of 10, 12.5, and 15% is taken for free cash flow growth rate. Based on those growth rates, the potential value of the stock is shown. Again, if you think the values could be higher or lower, please use your estimation to recalculate the value of the stock using DCF calculation. Thank you for watching this video.